Welcome to the Toucan Talks podcast, brought to you by Kickstart Collective. Join us as we talk to local Wilmington business owners about what has led to their successes, challenges, and more. No question is off limits as we bounce from topic to topic.
And this podcast is brought to you by Kickstart Studios. Kickstart Studios is Wilmington's newest video podcast studio. Equipped with multiple camera angles and an in-house producer, creating a high-quality video podcast has never been easier. Don't let the tech and gear learning curve hold you back from jumping into podcasting or created video content any longer. Our team takes care of it all for you so you can focus on the message you want to share. You simply show up, record, and receive the final product. No more wasting time setting it up and breaking down the gear, setting up lights, or doing sound checks on your own. Our in-house producer will have everything set up and ready to go for you. Check us out at Kickstart Studios. Welcome back to another episode in season 2 of the Toucan Talks podcast. Today we have Wes Barefoot with us. And Wes is, in my mind, he's just the franchise guy. That's how it correlates in my mind. So
I'll take it.
Introduce yourself a little bit. Let us know about you, how we know each other, and then a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So Wes Barefoot, my wife and family live here in Wilmington. I met Luke and Laura, I don't know, man, probably 4 years ago because it was... or close to it. It was shortly after I started my consulting business, Path to Freedom. You guys helped me film like a promo video or a brand story video. I remember walking around downtown Wilmington with you and still use that video today. It came out great, and you guys helped me with some social promotion stuff as well. And I guess we got introduced because you guys went to high school with Kelly, my wife. Who's been a guest on season 1.
Yeah, she wanted me to note that she was a guest before you.
Yeah, well, you guys didn't do the save the best for last in that instance. Yeah. She's the brains and the beauty of our little operation. But so we have a couple, business-wise, we have a couple different things going on. Most of my focus is in franchising, which is why you might think of me as the franchise guy. Yeah. Kind of fell backwards into it after moving back to Wilmington after college. There's a company headquartered here called 101 Mobility that is actually a franchise. And so they are the franchisor as kind of the headquarters of the parent company. And I met the founders and didn't know a thing about franchising, but started working for them. The company was young. It was kind of in growth mode, startup, kind of feel, and that was very different from like the big company I worked for a few years right out of college. And so that went on to open many doors in this world of franchising, which is, ended up being great for us as a family and created numerous business opportunities. So when Kelly was on, she talked about ShelfGenie, which is one of the businesses that we own, and we are the local franchisees for Wilmington and Myrtle Beach. And so I actually worked for ShelfGenie selling franchises. So I technically sold my wife a franchise, which has proven to been a good thing. Could have really backfired on me if it didn't work out for us. But and so through working for a couple of different franchise brands, most of what I did was franchise sales and development. I interacted with franchise consultants. And a franchise consultant is, I guess the best way to explain it is similar to a real estate agent, but working with franchise businesses and buyers of franchise businesses, or at least someone that's interested in exploring franchise ownership. So that's where now I spend most of my working time. Path to Freedom is my franchise consulting business. And so I work with people that want to learn more about franchise ownership and see if it may be a direction that they want to go in. And then on the other hand, I have relationships with a wide variety of just different types of franchise businesses. So right now I work with about 250 different brands. Most of them are not food businesses, which is what a lot of people
Contrary
tend to think
the
of.
popular belief.
Yeah, and food's obviously a very big part of the franchising industry, but a lot of people are surprised to realize just how many other types of franchise businesses are out there that are not involving food. And so I essentially have a process that I take people through. Part of what I like about it is that I really get to spend time getting to know the people that I'm working with and, helping them get clear on their vision and what exactly they want to get out of owning a business.
Right.
And then that's going to impact the types of franchises that I would come back and recommend to them. So that's kind of phase one of the process, is getting clear on the vision, getting clear on the criteria of the right type of business for them. Phase two is me bringing back some recommendations. And then there's, as you can imagine, a lot of research, a lot of due diligence that goes into vetting any business opportunity, but in particularly a franchise where, there's a sizable investment made on the front end to become a franchisee. There are legal agreements that, have to be executed between franchisor and franchisee. So there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of research that should be done. And so that's a big part of my role with the people that I work with, is helping to guide them through that process and help them figure out everything from funding strategies to legal guidance to, tax and business entity type questions. And so I've got kind of a network of professionals that specialize in these different areas. And I'm really just there kind of connecting the dots and ultimately giving people a more methodical approach to what would typically be a pretty overwhelming process to try to tackle on their own.
No doubt. Yeah, that's why people, like your analogy, hire real estate agents.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it saves a lot of time. I mean, I talk to a lot of people that tell me, I've spent years thinking about owning a business or, looking at different franchises, and most don't get beyond just surfing the internet because there are thousands and thousands of franchise opportunities out there. And like anything else in this world, not all franchises are created equally.
Right.
There are certainly franchises out there that I wouldn't invest in. I wouldn't recommend anyone else invest in.
Right.
Lots of great franchises out there and everything in between, but it's overwhelming to not only know where to start, but then, to start putting everything in place in the order that it needs to happen in to make meaningful progress.
For sure. Well, so if you're interested in owning your own business, this might be a good podcast for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
hang in
for
there
sure.
with us.
For sure. I find that a lot of people that end up really being a great fit for owning a franchise were not considering a franchise until they took the time to at least look further into it and better understand how franchising works, the potential benefits that come with it, and also just the extent of different types of franchises that are out there. So it's pretty rare that I work with someone from the very beginning that's dead set on owning a franchise, and it's just a matter of finding the right one.
Yeah.
It's usually very exploratory in the beginning.
Right.
And a lot of what I try to do is just educate.
Right.
And set realistic expectations. And more people than not, once they learn more about it, they realize it could actually be a really good
for them.
really good fit.
Yeah. I love it. Well, if everybody has seen kind of our format before, if you haven't, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do here. We're going to take these little chips.
Okay.
We're going to drop them from the top. It's going to land on either 1 or 2. If it lands on a 1, I think that's this side. This is correct.
There's the 1.
Yeah, 1 and 2. There we go.
Cool.
1's business question. 2, we like to call it our good party questions.
All right.
So they're just kind of fun questions. We have a few new additions this season.
Sweet.
If you drop a chip, and because this has happened so many times and it gets hung up like that, you win a special prize.
Sweet.
If you drop it in a 1 or a 2 and it hits, like, let's say you hit 1 3 times in a row, you can pick a card from over there, the blue cards.
Okay.
And you can ask me one of those, or you can just random fire, give me a crazy question that I have to answer right here.
I like it.
Yeah. Did I miss anything, Josh?
That's pretty much
okay.
it,
I remembered it. I thought I was going to forget. So
It's a cool concept.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is different. We had to have something to keep our minds engaged the whole time. And hopefully other people enjoy it too. You can let us know. If you're like, this thing's stupid, just talk.
I think it's cool.
Kick it off.
I've seen most of the episodes that you guys put out, and I think it keeps it interesting for sure.
And it keeps it moving along. So before we keep talking, let's have you drop one.
All right.
So, and if it flies off, do we have anything for that? If it flies off,
three times in a row.
then I get to like open hand slap them.
What's the new the UFC guys doing? Slap
challenge
force or something like that.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't fly off if that's the case.
2. All right, let's start with the old party question, something fun.
Let's go.
We're gonna go with the one in my hand, not the one I dropped. All right, so this is a nice, easy
little softball to kick things off.
Exactly. What's your favorite travel experience? And then where is one place on your list to visit?
Okay, let's see. Favorite travel experience. Probably be Mexico, because that's where my wife and I have gone most frequently. So we've done pretty good about once a year getting away without the kids for a week or so, and we like to just go to a nice resort on a nice beach in Mexico and type of trip where you have no plans, no obligations, just kind of wake up and do whatever you feel like doing that day. Yeah,
man, that sounds good right now.
Yeah, we got to go back in September, and it was awesome. So we've not done a ton of international traveling yet, so that's probably the best yet.
Cool.
Greece is the next trip that we have lined up. So
I love it. Oh, it's lined up already?
Well, dates not. We were gonna go. We were gonna go back over the summer, and we have a not quite 2-year-old. So at the time, like 1.5. And as we got closer and closer to the trip, Kelly just wasn't quite comfortable going overseas.
But you've got kind of your spots picked out, what you want to do.
We've got deposits in and stuff like that. It's just a matter of finalizing the dates. So we're going to go bounce around the Greek Isles a little bit, which should be cool.
That sounds awesome.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, let's have you drop another one.
All right.
Oh, another
two.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna leave them in there. That way I can remember. I can remember. Okay, that feels like maybe it's in the wrong bucket, but we're gonna go with it anyways. What's your go-to productivity trick?
Ooh, so in general, and I've kind of gotten away from this with kids and morning schedules and all of that, but it's one of my goals to get back to for 2024. So it's a good question. Having at least 20 or 30 minutes of quiet time in the morning, right? To get up and, not be on the phone, not be chasing kids around or rushing out the door, not be checking emails or have notifications going off. And, I've done different things from journaling to writing goals out to, reviewing goals to, I've tried meditation, never was very good at it, I don't think, but just, some quiet time to, set your mind a little bit. And I think more than anything, it's start the day off on your terms instead of rolling right into chaos and being pulled in, however many different directions.
Right.
That and some good non-lyrical music.
Yeah. Okay.
Is like good for focus, I found.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
That sounds like I used to do that as well. Like take like at least a half hour in the morning.
Yeah.
I would wake up early and like go to the gym and just have my time to just do my thing.
Yeah. Whether it's walking or the gym or whatever, but it's like you're setting the tone of the day.
Yeah.
Harder to do once you have little kids in the mix, as I know you guys can relate.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it 2024, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I might just have to wake up at 4:30 to
exactly.
To do it.
That actually is my time window. All right.
There we go.
Well, I guess no random question for me yet. All right. It's a little biz question. Also, I feel like we really upgraded here at Toucan Talks. Our paper is more like cardstock now, so budget is going up.
Did it keep ripping last season?
Yeah. All right. So, and you mentioned this in kind of your preface, so you can just kind of reiterate in like a brief way about like, how did you get into your current line of work?
Yeah, so it was the work I did for the franchise companies that I worked directly for. I interacted with a lot of franchise consultants. That's how we got most of our leads or referrals for prospective franchisees. And I can remember early on at the first franchise brand I worked for, 101 Mobility, being at what we call a discovery day. So that's kind of the final step in the due diligence process. The prospective franchisees would usually come in to visit with the franchisor. This is something that most brands do. And one of the prospective franchisees was there with their franchise consultant. I remember asking one of the founders, who that person was, and he kind of explained to me, what their role in all of this was. And this was close to 10 years ago at this point. And I can remember thinking to myself, man, that's something I could see myself really enjoying. And, so learned the ins and outs of what would be required to be a good franchise consultant through all of that work. And really it was us starting our first business and having some success with that and getting some steady income coming in that then put me in a position to be able to leave, a W-2 job with a salary and commission opportunity and benefits to start, my own consulting business.
That's pretty cool perspective though, because you kind of like got to work on the other side of your current job and see like what it was like from that other perspective. Like you were pretty much like the customer, almost. You were like kind of the customer you're now serving.
That's right.
So that's kind of a unique experience.
We've been through that process of buying franchises. We had another franchise that we just sold about a month ago. So we've done it twice ourselves in terms of researching and purchasing a franchise. And then, now I interact a lot with the franchise development reps for the brands, right? Which is so the people that I'm working with, they go through a due diligence process with any brands that they're researching, and they're primarily interacting with the franchise development rep for that brand, which is what I used to be. And, a lot of people, I think, imagine, if you're looking at buying a franchise, it's like talking to a used car salesman, right? They're just going to say whatever they need to say to make the sell. And some franchises treat it that way, but the really good franchises don't. It's really a mutual investigation, right? Like it's a partnership at the end of the day. And so the franchisor needs to feel good about the franchisee just as much as the franchisee needs to feel good about the business and the franchisor. Right. And so there's quite a bit of coaching that really should happen, with the person that's investigating a franchise business to make sure that the franchisor is going to have no question in their mind that they're a great fit. Right. And you run into some scenarios too where there's actually a little bit of competition because most franchises run what they call a protected territory model, right? So take Wilmington. Yeah. That's going to be a territory or maybe a couple of territories depending on how the brand structures it. But once someone owns the territory, it's off the map and unavailable, right? For example, I just had someone I'm working with earlier this week at a discovery day for a brand, and they live in an area called New Braunfels, which is in Texas, in between San Antonio and Austin. Growing area. Someone else from the same area was at the same discovery day looking at the same brand, right? So now it's like the franchisor has options. And so a lot of what I do is coaching people on how to not only do the research the right way to make the best decisions for themselves in terms of, is this brand a good fit for me or not, but also making sure that they don't get the rug pulled out from under them because they didn't handle themselves correctly through that process. So
I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. It doesn't always happen that way,
but it can.
It can, and more often than you may think. And so in that instance, I'm pleased to say my lady got the nod, and other person's in the back seat. If she decides that she's not going to move forward, then she may have a chance. But it can be kind of competitive sometimes.
That's cool. I like it. Yeah. All right, let's have you drop another one. I'm going to pull those out. We were on one last. All right. Oh, I thought he about won a prize there. It's a pretty good prize today too. All right. This is such a crazy question to put in this can, in my opinion. What's your least favorite thing about Wilmington?
These days, it's the traffic.
Yeah,
hands down.
Yeah.
No question about it. Traffic and too many apartment buildings.
Yeah. Sorry.
Everywhere you look.
Yeah, I put up all the apartment buildings myself. Yeah, man, traffic is rough.
Yeah.
Especially where like the side of town you're headed coming back in.
Well, and
that bypass is going to be nice.
I hope so. Yeah, we're building in Hampstead, and Kelly was out that way yesterday, and I think it was like 4:00.
Oh.
She was going from Ogden into like Scotts Hill.
Yeah.
And she was like, I hope there's a wreck and it's not just the normal traffic. And I was like, I don't know.
It's pretty rough out
we're just going to have to not come to Wilmington on a daily basis.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. You're going to have to get it dialed in up there, but you guys can do that to an extent.
Yeah, we can work from home, and we have an office building, and like warehouse off of out there by the airport. So
so you can
kind of shoot down the bypass and come in off of 40, and it's not too bad, but it'll be an adjustment. But it's like, 6 half dozen the other. You're either gonna spend time driving from like somewhere like Hampstead or Leland into town, or even if you're in town, you're still
gonna be sitting at stoplights.
You're still sitting in the car.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
Traffic.
First world problems.
It's always traffic. Yeah. All right, let's drop another.
Now I want this prize.
Okay. Yeah. I don't honestly know where to put you. I mean, I would say you maybe drop towards the middle.
Is there
like
a certain
this peg,
spot?
I think?
Yeah, and the one below it.
And this one or this one?
That one.
Okay. So
That
those
one.
are kind of like the hot ones.
That's the money peg.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. This is back to a business question. What's been your craziest business interaction?
Ooh, that's a good one. Does it have to be in my consulting business?
No, because you've got, right? I mean, y'all own franchises.
Yeah.
You worked as a...
Oh, man, that's such a good question. You could do a whole podcast themed off of just like crazy business interactions and customer interactions. I don't think Kelly brought this up, so I'm gonna. I personally wasn't involved in this, but it's a good story. So if anyone's seen the Netflix show Tiger King, the documentary, so,
of course.
So there's a guy, I won't throw his name out there, but
he's in the movie.
He's not. No, he's not
but
big enough.
He's the Tiger King.
I think he's probably upset that he wasn't in the documentary.
Okay. Wow.
Because he's like what I would consider a wannabe Tiger King.
Okay.
But he lives right outside of Wilmington.
All right.
And he's got this big plot of land with like
tigers?
an old house and an old building. I don't think he has any big cats, but he's got lemurs and ostriches and like all these exotic birds.
Okay.
The only reason we know this is he had a consultation done with our shelving business.
Okay.
All right. And so one of our designers, which is what we call our salespeople, goes out to run the consultation, not knowing anything, is going to be out of the ordinary from a normal consultation. And it also happens that this particular designer, for whatever reason, hates birds. Like she's terrified of birds. And so she walks in and this guy just flying around the house, exotic birds. The way she tells it, I personally haven't been in the house. Kelly's since been in there, and he has one of our closets in there now. But we got
Still
the business,
converted the customer.
I mean, 20, 30 birds, just of all different sizes, types of birds. So she said it was just sheer chaos. And imagine if you're like scared of birds walking into that.
That's incredible.
Flying right over your head and stuff. So that was an interesting one for sure.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Showing up
There's
somewhere.
some stuff on the internet about this guy. He's an advocate for exotic animal ownership and some stuff like that. So interesting character.
I mean, that's pretty wild, but you still got the business.
Never a dull moment when you're in a service-based business. You never know what you're gonna run into. Okay.
All right.
What does that get me?
That gets you nothing. No soup for you.
The clumsy award.
All right, here we go. Oh, it stalled for a second. All right, another business question. Biz question. Oh, this must be a question from last year. We're off the card stock.
Flimsy paper. It's one of those low budget questions.
Yeah, but it's a good question. This one is, what advice would you give to a person either about to start a business or early on in their business ownership journey?
Yeah, find a mentor. Find someone that's, done what it is that you're trying to do, and, not only learn as much as you can from them, but just establish, the type of relationship with them where, they can be very candid with you and vice versa, because I don't care what the business is, any business that you own, it's going to be a roller coaster, and you're going to have lots of highs, but you're also going to have some lows, and it can be really, really just refreshing to have someone that you can talk to and share more so the lows than the highs with, and then kind of talk you off the ledge sometimes. And even if they're not like telling you how to solve the problem or the challenge in front of you, just to remind you that you're not the first entrepreneur to go through something like this.
Yeah.
And, there is a way to get through it. And, little plug for franchising here. That's one of the many benefits that come with that, right? You've got support from the franchisor, which is great, but you also have this whole network of other franchisees that are all out there running the exact same business as you.
Yeah.
And they're not competitors of yours, right? So especially if you're a newer franchisee, you've got all these people that if you're having a problem with something, chances are they've had that same problem, and they are probably going to have a lot of good advice and suggestions as, how to maneuver. And again, just to kind of be a sounding board and remind you that, like, hey, you're not the first one to deal with something like this.
Right.
And, there's a way to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mentorship is so important. I think you're not the first to have mentioned it, and it's definitely like up there as far as one of the most important things.
It's key, and it doesn't have to be something, awkward like, hi, would you be my mentor?
Right, exactly.
Like, it can just kind of be like, I'm not the smartest guy by any stretch of the imagination. One thing I've, for whatever reason, naturally been pretty good at is just seeking out people that are doing the types of things that I want to do and developing a relationship with them. And so a lot of times it's just staying in touch with people, right? And not waiting for them to like offer to be your mentor or for them to reach out and say, how are things going? And, you do that, there's a balance, right? You've got to at least try to find ways to add value to them too, and not always be taking. But if you can strike that balance, you can find mentors everywhere.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, just figure out a way to add value for someone that has been there and done that. And that way it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah. And I think what I've seen too is like a lot of times you don't even actually have to add value. It's more the intent that you want to and are willing to if you can. And you're not just asking and looking to take from them. Even if they're, because I mean, I've got some mentors that there's very little I could do to help them or add value, unless it's like I'm washing your car for you, But
have you ever done that?
No, I don't think I've washed a car, but I've dog sat for a mentor, lent my boat to a mentor before. So
there you go.
I've done some things like that.
That's value.
Yeah,
that's definitely value.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, let's have you drop another. If you get one more, then something happens.
Let's go over here and see what happens.
All right. Okay. 3 ones in a row. So
what does that mean?
You can either pick a blue card to ask me, or you can just ask me a random question. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I don't know what the blue cards are. I've never seen the blue cards.
Well, this couldn't line up better with what we just talked about. So what advice would you give to a younger mentee?
Oh, gosh. That's pretty wild.
Add value.
That's pretty weird. Yeah. Add value. Yeah. I mean, realistically, that's exactly what I would say.
Yeah.
I will just briefly reiterate. Just add value, show up and be ready to work.
Yeah.
And like Wes said, I mean, a lot of times you can't do everything. They're not going to come like put you to work, but come ready to do something, ready to learn and do something.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point, right? And even if it's not like doing work for them, like,
Right.
joked about washing their car or whatever, but like if they give you some advice and then they see that you're not willing to implement it or try it, like they're probably not going to be interested in continuing to offer up any advice. But if they see that you're the type of person to take something and run with it, even if it's not pretty, right? But if they see you trying to implement and execute things that they're sharing with you, like most successful people that you would likely look up to as a mentor, that'll get them excited. Right. And they'll be like, okay, this guy or this girl, they're hungry. Right. They're willing to try. This is someone I could get excited about helping because they'll take it and do something with it.
Absolutely. I love it. And I'm still kind of like weirded out that you just picked that card. It's like,
that was
with as random as this whole thing is,
and that couldn't have been set up.
We couldn't have set that up.
No. Let's go from over here and see.
Use the side bumpers. Oh,
right.
Wow.
Four ones in a row.
Yeah. What does that mean? I don't know.
Do we start back over for?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're back on one. This is a good question. Speaking of mentors, like we're just going to keep right on that thing.
Theme.
Yeah. Who or what has taught you the most about creating business strategies? So strategies. We're big on strategies this season of Toucan Talks.
I like that. It's a great topic. That's such a hard question to ask because there's so many different directions I could go in with that.
Could go book, YouTube video, like influencer, like mentor, wife.
Yeah, I mean, look, in general, learning about the franchising models taught me a lot about just business strategy in general, because one of the cool things I get to see from my seat now is hundreds and hundreds of different businesses that are all franchises. And we're talking businesses in wildly different industries, right? And so naturally some of the strategies are going to be different, right? But it's also pretty interesting to see themes that, a franchise in the fitness space over here, best practices and strategies that they're implementing that are similar or the same to a franchise in a home service industry over here. So for me, that's been really helpful. And, I think sometimes I almost take it for granted because I'm so close to these things all the time. But it's like, if we wanted to start a business from scratch, I've got so many different strategies and essentially a blueprint that we could model our business off of that I'm pulling from all of these different businesses that I've worked with and researched over the years. So that, I don't know how good of an answer that is, but seeing similar strategies in very different businesses be applied in work, that's been really helpful.
I gotcha. So this is kind of a random question, but I find it interesting because I think you're right. Like a lot of people that aren't familiar with franchising think like franchise pops in your head and you think McDonald's, right? Like every time, fast food, whatever. What is like one of the most surprising franchises that exists that you wouldn't think exists?
All right, I've got a good answer for this. Okay. I had this the CEO of this company on my podcast probably 6 months ago.
Okay.
It's a franchise called Bio1.
Okay.
So they are a crime scene and biohazard cleanup business.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So something you don't really, franchise. Something you don't really think about often.
You're right. Yeah.
But if a murder happens or a chemical spill happens or something like that, like someone's got to come clean it up.
Yeah.
And in most cases, you need someone that's trained and equipped with the right types of materials and
know like where to dispose it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, like, because what do you do?
Chemicals. Yeah.
So there's a franchise for that. So if you're
that's wild.
Big fan of Dexter or any of those types of shows, then
hit
maybe something like Bio1. But that's a pretty wild one.
Man,
there's a lot of other examples too. I mean, there's franchises that run kids sports leagues, right? Like any parents out there listening probably heard of I-9 Sports. It's a franchise.
Yeah.
It's not what most people think of when they think of franchises, but almost any service you could need done around your home, there's a franchise for it, right?
Sure.
There's franchises that specialize just in holiday lighting.
Yeah.
You know? So pretty rare that, you know, I work with someone that is genuinely motivated to get into business for themselves.
Right.
And, you know, there are some financial requirements, but a lot of franchises require far less capital than people imagine. So, you know, there are some people out there that probably would not yet be in a financial position to get into a franchise, but excluding that, it is extremely rare that we can't find at least one or two options that are a really good fit and check all the boxes that you're looking for.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's wild. I'm just thinking, like, I wanted to ask you that question from the beginning. I was like, I'm just gonna wait because
yeah, and that was a fun one to do because, you know, she had some stories. Like apparently when new franchisees come in for training, they create like a mock crime scene.
Oh gosh.
And they buy, what did she say it was? They buy sheep's blood. And they put it on the walls and the floor, and I mean, they make it look like a
real
gory crime scene.
I mean, I guess you kind of got to, because what do you do
How
if you
else are you
hire
gonna
somebody and then just send them out and they just like,
they're
just like, nope, sorry,
So
I'm done.
this CEO was new to the company, so it was like her first training that she was a part of. They had, you know, a group of new franchise owners coming through, and apparently at their headquarters where they do the training, they'd also recently hired a new cleaning crew. So typically what they would do is the night before they would stage the crime scene, right? So sheep's blood, you know, they come in the next morning and the cleaning crew had cleaned everything up. like can you imagine if you're like the new cleaning crew that just, you know,
like,
lock down this new client? Maybe you know what they do, maybe you don't really know what they do, and you walk in and
people
you're
coming
just
in
like,
probably don't know what's going
just
on.
like, what happened here? Well, we got to clean them up. we got to clean it up.
Can you imagine being like the cleaner on site and calling your boss and be like, there's blood everywhere.
Should we touch
Should
this?
we clean it up or not?
Call
He's
the
like,
authorities.
We just got this client. You must clean it up.
This is a big account for us. We just signed them.
Oh my God.
Clean it, make it spotless. Yeah, she was like, you know, I'd go to the refrigerator to get creamer for my coffee, and there'd be a vat of sheep's blood, you know, in there next to it. I'm like,
There's something for everybody.
I'm gonna get another fridge to keep that in. But
Maybe just separate the
yeah,
pieces.
it was pretty wild.
What are we looking at on time, Josh?
37.
Oh, we're doing great. Okay, I'm gonna let you drop one more.
All right,
Just in hopes that it'll stall out.
all right. Let's get a stall here.
Come on, just one stall.
Go
You can't
off
just.
to the left.
Oh, it was close, dude.
Oh,
it was
almost
close.
stuck
What
on
if it
that one,
stalled
too.
right there?
That almost did.
All right, one last fun
All right,
question.
And on a party question.
Yeah. It's a dare.
All right.
I always get stuck with this one, and it's like I always end up with like some other man's hairy nipple on my Instagram story. But it says switch phones and post on each other's Instagram stories.
Just post something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything specific. Apparently, I don't want to look at my phone because it's been blowing up.
I know that's always the worst.
Uh,
Were we posting like a photo from our library or
whatever you want to do,
New
you
photo.
can take it, or you can post one
All
from
right,
your
look,
library.
just don't post?
Yeah, okay,
That's,
got it.
That's coming from Santa
Yeah,
to the kids.
I got
They
you.
don't know
I got
about
you.
it yet.
Yeah. Here you go. I think you know how to use Instagram, right?
Yeah.
I rarely do. I might just take a photo and post it.
That's what I'm gonna do too.
There you go.
All right. Do I want to do a filter to make myself look better
I
here?
think. There we go.
So who posted a hairy nipple to your?
Sam Steger, the owner of Mess Hall.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've not met him, but I've seen some of what you guys have done with him.
From a marketing perspective, you can.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
The one where they were singing,
the milkshake video.
Oh my God. That was classic.
I appreciate that. That was a good collab.
That was fantastic.
Take a peek at yours.
And we gotta show the cameras too.
I like how it said stories and Wes just posted it to my definitely to my feed, but it was fine. And now
that's how you know I don't
I do the Instagram.
Young Jamie. Where's the camera?
It's of
Pull that
you.
up, Jamie.
I just figured I'd switch it up a little bit.
That's great.
Here, I'll share.
I don't know if the camera got it before.
I got you now. I see what you're doing.
And your photo's a little out of focus too. I love it.
Yeah,
It's just
well,
you're the franchise guy.
I'm the franchise guy,
Not the photo
and
guy.
clearly need the videographer and marketing specialist, since I don't even know how to post a story on Instagram. Apparently,
It's not what you do. What you're good at. And
Can you show the camera?
I stay in my lane.
I will. I'll totally show the camera. Or you can, which camera? Which this one? I love it. I'll share that to my story. Is what I'll do. You got it. Wes is just pumping us up, and I'm just posting Josh with hashtag Young Jamie.
I mean, that'll probably get some views though.
Yeah.
because I'm sure that's a pretty popular
hashtag.
hashtag.
Yeah. And people are gonna be like, "Whoa, did you hire for your podcast?" Because Wes has a podcast, Path to Freedom, right? Spell it out for us.
That's a debate. It's
That's your website.
Yes, the number 2 is in the website.
Okay.
It's TO for the podcast.
For the podcast.
So we probably need to make a call on that and get it all
Stick with one.
consistent.
Sure. But for now,
Again, not a marketing and branding expert here. So
but for now,
clearly
Path
need
to
some help.
TO Freedom is your podcast.
Yep.
You talk. Give us a quick little rundown.
it's-
What do you talk about?
all things entrepreneurship, right? So it's
Yeah.
not exclusive to franchising. Obviously, that comes up quite a bit, and I
Right.
do interview a lot of the CEOs and founders of the brands that I work with.
That's
so,
cool.
if people are curious of some of the types of brands that I work with,
Yeah.
a lot of the podcast episodes are kind of spotlighting those brands. But you guys have been on the podcast. I like talking to anyone that has their own business,
Right.
has built businesses, sold businesses. There's so much that I can learn, the listeners can learn. And so the goal is for the Path to Freedom podcast just to be a resource for any aspiring entrepreneur to give them, some insight into where to get started, how to get started, encouragement that, hey, if others are out there doing it, I can too, if I really set my mind to it. But also for the existing small business owner that's just continuing to look to grow and level up. And I've had a lot of fun weaving into all of that other things like mindset training. I've gotten more into fitness and trying to get myself in better shape, and have seen how that's impacted every other area of my life, right? So I like talking to fitness entrepreneurs. So all things business and entrepreneurship, but with a touch of how to just level up in life in general.
I love it. Yeah, I've listened to quite a few of your episodes, and I would say, or I guess, question: how have you, like, from a strategy standpoint, how have you seen your podcast affect your business?
Yeah, so I think when I initially started it, I had this naive idea that the podcast would turn into this lead generating machine for me, and it's starting to do some of that. But I started the podcast 3.5 years ago, probably. Takes some time. So, it has started to turn into something that's good for exposure and generating interest. Probably the most tangible thing is the brands I have featured on the podcast. There's a pretty strong correlation of me being able to place people into those brands.
Right.
And I think there's 2 reasons for that. The first is that, because I work with 250 brands, right? So these are all brands that I'm familiar with, and they meet certain criteria that any brand has to meet in order for me to be comfortable recommending it to someone. but I don't know every one of those 250 brands
Right.
as well as I know some of them,
Sure.
right? And a big part of it for me, and I would say for anyone that's going to invest in the franchise, yes, the business model has to make sense. The support, the resources that the franchisor is providing has to be good, but the people behind the brand have to be the type of people that you want to partner with too,
Sure.
right? And so that's huge for me, getting to really know the people behind the brand. So when I can spend, an hour and a half having a one-on-one conversation with the founder and CEO of the brand,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a lot more comfortable recommending that brand.
Sure.
Obviously, then I've got a piece of content too that I can share with someone after I recommend the brand to them.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're more knowledgeable about it versus me just trying to explain
Right.
why I think it's a good fit, which
Yeah.
I do. And I tell them from my perspective, this is why I think this brand, this business model, et cetera, lines up with what we've kind of created is
Yeah.
going to make sense for you. But when they can hear it direct from the source before, engaging and having actual meetings with the brand, just piques their interest. They come into it knowing a little bit more.
Right.
So it's helped in that way. It's helped me make good placements, which is how I get paid. My
Right.
services are free to the individuals that I work with. So again, very similar to a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I get paid by the franchise companies if and when I introduce them to someone that goes on to become a franchisee. So
Right.
it's helped in that way. Up until like a year ago, I'm pretty sure it was just my mom that listened to it. So I'm excited to see as more people keep listening.
Your mom and
what
me.
happens. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you guys
Just
listen.
me.
Listen to the episode that I had you on, I'm sure. I don't think my wife even listens to it. She's like,
She's
I
too
have
busy.
to hear you talk at home enough.
Yeah.
Like, why would I tune in?
She's busy
to
like
hear
trying to
you
run a
talk
franchise
more?
and hanging out with kids,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and we're really focusing on doing more on YouTube too.
Yeah. Good.
So all the podcast episodes, the full versions on YouTube and video format, but we're really trying to do more shorter form video content that's all educational
Yeah,
in
that's
nature.
good.
And so my oldest daughter, who's almost 7, she's got some YouTube channels that she follows, and
Yeah.
she thinks it's kind of cool that she can go to my YouTube channel and see thumbnails,
See Dad.
of Dad or whatever. So
Yeah, that's cool.
she checks it out too
That-
occasionally.
That's what's up. Hey, at least she thinks it's cool.
I'm like, hey,
she's
just
not like my dad's.
if you're bored, view it 100 times a day, and maybe
Yeah.
we can monetize YouTube. That'd be cool.
That's funny. When I asking that question initially, I was just thinking how cool it is probably for you to have this catalog that you can send to prospective
Yeah.
franchisees.
Yep.
That you're like, you know what? I think this is a good fit. Here's an hour-long conversation I had with the founder of the company.
It's huge for that. I think it adds some credibility,
100%.
as well.
like
Because
I've talked to I've talked to the CEO, I've talked to
Yeah.
the founder, whatever.
yeah, and especially because I have a lot of initial conversations with people that may not immediately go anywhere in
Right.
terms of like, all right, let's roll right into your process and get some brands on the table and dive into the research. Like,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon for me to work with someone off and on for 2 or 3 years,
Right.
until they're really ready or until we find the right fit for them.
Right.
Right. A lot of times it's a combination of both of those things. So, I have a lot of conversations where the person's just curious, wants
Yeah.
to learn a little bit more. They may come away from that conversation saying, okay, now that I know a little bit more, this could really make sense for me
Right.
a year from now, 2 years from now.
Right.
And if I can just say, hey, here's this podcast, I put, episodes out regularly. You can go through and look at all the episodes. That'll give you a sense of some of the types of franchises that I work with.
Yeah.
Because I work with very few food brands.
Yeah.
Right. So you can almost think of me as the non-food franchise guy.
Got
right.
it. Yeah.
And so it's a really good resource in that regard. I think it adds some credibility. It also just forces me to consistently put what I hope is good, valuable content out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and keep having conversations with franchisors, which is helping me learn these brands better,
Right.
which allows me to do my job better for the people that I'm working with.
Makes sense.
Plus it's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you love what you do,
Yeah.
why not talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I get to sit around and talk to cool people about business stuff all day. Just like you guys are doing. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
So, and looking forward to doing more of it and hopefully, continuing to grow the viewership.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Well, any kind of final thoughts you want to leave us with about business strategy, franchise strategy, like what you do, anything that a viewer / listener could just grab onto?
Yeah, I mean, I think final thoughts, I don't know when you're going to publish this, and if you don't want to timestamp it, take this out, young Jamie. But we're recording this in mid-December, so we're coming up on the end of the year. A lot of people are probably reflecting on 2023, looking at goal setting for 24. And so speaking of mentors, a guy that's kind of become a mentor of mine, whether he knows it or not, on his podcast, he recently put out an episode where he talked about 3 things that are critical for anyone to have if they're going to achieve a goal. And the first one was belief, right? So you've got to believe that it can be done and that you're capable of doing it. If you don't believe, then it's more of a dream than it is a goal. The second is know-how, right? And the know-how is not necessarily like you have to know every single thing that you need to do and how to do it to get it done, but you either have to know how you're going to go about starting to work towards that goal, or kind of like we've talked about today, plug in with someone that has some know-how, right? Whether that's a mentor that's already done it before, whether that's someone like myself that's got a process, right? If it's franchise ownership, right? I can take you by the hand and walk you step by step through a methodical process to help give you the know-how. Whereas without that, you're probably just doom scrolling the internet, looking at franchise opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Fitness, get a coach instead of trying to do it on your own, right? They're going to help you learn the nutrition side of it, the fitness side of it. Find some know-how. And there's really no excuse not to this day and age because there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
All right. And the third is willingness, right? So you've got to have the willingness to do the work to get it done. And usually a big part of the willingness too is the willingness to step out of your comfort zone and get uncomfortable. So as you're thinking about whatever goals you may have for the coming year and going forward, keep that in mind. That's kind of the formula, the 3 necessary things for making any goals a reality: belief, know-how, willingness. And if one of those goals is business ownership, hit me up and we'll talk about franchises.
That's it. Awesome. Well, where can everybody get after you, get up with you?
Yeah, website is pathtofreedom.com. It's
with a number 2.
With a 2.
Yep.
And it's FRDM, so short form for freedom.com. There's some good stuff there, but most everything, go to the YouTube channel. That's Path TO Freedom. I got to fix that.
We'll get you there.
Laura, I need your help. But like I said, all the podcasts is there. Working on putting out a lot more, good, just educational FAQ type stuff, sharing a lot of other people's stories that have had success through franchise ownership. And then Path to Freedom podcast is everywhere you can listen to podcasts.
I love it. And just to reiterate something Wes has said a couple times, it's not just if you're interested in franchising. That does come up, but he talks about entrepreneurship. And a lot of times what happens is people figure out that, hey, my lifestyle might just be a better fit for a franchise.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally. And that's why, it's not Wes's franchise podcast or anything like that. Cause I know that most people are not sitting around thinking about owning a franchise, but as they learn more about it, they realize, okay, this could actually make sense.
Right.
There's a lot of misconceptions out there about franchising, and a lot more just types of businesses that are franchises, as we've talked about, than most people realize. And, when it comes to the podcast, even if a franchise is never of interest to you or never going to be a good fit, my hope is that there's still good value and entertainment.
There's still entrepreneurial value in there for sure. Because these business strategies, they apply.
Well,
So,
totally. And I talk to people that are real estate investors. I talk
Yeah.
to people that are, tax specialists. I mean, a lot of people that aren't doing anything in franchising at all, but I'm interested in it. And, they've got a cool entrepreneurial story to share.
I love it. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in for another episode of Toucan Talks here in season 2. Thanks, Wes, for coming on.
My pleasure.
And remember, everyone out there, we do rent out this studio space actually. So this is
It's a good studio. I've set up a podcast myself to be able to just walk in and sit down and start recording, and then have the back end, of all
young
the
Josh.
There you go. We need to get a young Josh shirt made for him.
Yeah, rented shirt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
beauty. You can just sit down, and then you can pretty much that same day or 24 hours later have your episode just delivered to you.
You don't have to know what you're
digitally.
doing,
Exactly.
as long as you can speak.
You just show up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is cool. I love
Yeah.
what you guys are doing.
Thanks,
Keep
man.
up the good work.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, and thanks for coming on. And yeah,
Awesome.
till next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Toucan Talks, brought to you by Kickstart Collective. If you loved this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you watch podcasts, and follow Kickstart Collective on Instagram at Kickstart Collective.